You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona. With me always are my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And Shannon G from Mesa AZ.
Look at that. I love it. It's awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast. We have had a couple of really good days. I think Jay got to go out and fly some, and Shannon definitely was out participating in Gunsmoke. So I think without further ado, we're going to let Shannon kind of walk us through. I know last time we were talking about you going and that you were going to bring your little L5, I think, or Grasshopper, whatever they call it.
It's the N1.
N1, oh, okay.
N1 Navy Cub. So I got it all together. I got it flying. I only got a few flights before I got it really running good. So I wasn't as good with it as I wanted to be. That was my only concern. But I went out and I was just flying in the Pro-Am Sportsman, like the novice. And all you have to do is provide a picture. But I put a pilot in there, and I painted over all the screws and kind of touched things up and did a little weathering here and there just to make it look good. But they don't even care. They just look at the picture. They're, okay, it's an airplane.
Right.
My first round of flying was, there's two judges, and they sit there and you have to go through and tell them what you're going to do maneuvers wise. And you have some basic maneuvers you have to do, and then you have to add like 4 more. And I'd never done that part before. So Paul Stenberg from Zap, good friend of ours, I think, he was my caller, and he's done it a couple times. So he really helped me through this whole experience. And I mean, it wasn't like it was traumatic or anything, but it's just like, wow, this is totally different. I got to do all this stuff. And they ask you questions. Well, it's like, what was it? There's a chandelle, and then there's a climbing 180. They're different. They're similar, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because you're supposed to stall, almost stall at the end of the chandelle. Is that right? Like
that is correct.
Okay. Yeah. But the rule book that we have for this didn't quite spell that out. So I was like,
What's a chandelle?
Well, I knew what the chandelle was, but I was like, well, but what's the difference between that and the climbing 180 by itself? So I had the worst takeoff ever. I mean, I rolled the thing around on the ground like 3 times, finally got to ground, and you get scored for your takeoff, and you get scored for your landing.
Course.
You get scored if you sneeze.
That was a good sneeze,
flying. +5. Yeah. There we go. The figure 8, that's probably the biggest maneuver, and with a little foamy cub, it's a little. I got pretty good with that one. I wasn't too bad. It was just my takeoffs and my landings were kept getting. Like I had a landing where I hit into the fence. I'm like, okay, landing complete. Call the ambulance, because you're supposed to be as real as possible with all of your, like when you taxi out, like you leave, like on electric, you leave the prop running, so you got to have it. You don't want to turn it off.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so because a real plane, you don't, it doesn't turn off unless, of course, it's a real electric, but not a lot of those out there yet. Trying to think what else. So my maneuvers was the figure 8, missed approach. Missed approach, I usually did pretty good. Like, watch out for the pig in the middle of the runway.
Yeah, right.
Oh, gotta go. And so my first score was like 60 out of 100.
Out of 100?
Out of 100, yeah.
Okay.
So not too good, but I got points. I was like, okay,
sure.
I figure I can't go down from there.
You could. You could crash it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that would be. I wasn't going to crash it. So.
Right.
So my second round, I actually was able to. I upped it up. I got 65.5. So I went up. So I thought, okay, that's improvement. That's all I can ask for, right?
Right.
So I'm happy. I only thought I was going to get to fly 3 rounds because I had a funeral to go to on Saturday, because this was a Friday-Saturday event. So we did 2 rounds of qualifying on Friday, 2 rounds on Saturday. But we only had 22 competitors. So I was like, hey, is there any way I could like squeeze in my fourth round? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll let you do that. So I got all 4 rounds in. On Saturday, my first round was 70.5.
Oh,
So I
wow.
went up, another 5 points, and then I got like 71.5 on the second one. So not quite as good. I bumped up a little bit. So I finished fourth out of 5. There was a guy behind me that didn't really compete much. So, but it was a really fun experience. It was like, you can tell a lot of guys are like, they're like all freaking out, nervous and whatnot. And I'm just like, okay, I just came here to have a good time and, get my feet wet. So,
Right.
and I had the smallest plane. I had the smallest plane in the entire competition.
I
Everybody
like
else,
that.
there was no jets either. Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I was really shocked. Yeah, there was no jets. Usually Spencer just got a new job, so he couldn't be out there. And usually there's at least one or two, but there wasn't any. So it was a little weird. And the next day, like I went back out to go flying on Sunday, and I took one of my jets out, and I was trying to do my routine with the jet in the amount of time that I could fly the jet, and it was real dicey. So probably a good idea that even though I could have done it with the jet probably a little better, especially takeoff and landing. I just didn't feel I could have squeezed it in if I had any little, because oftentimes there's 3 other planes flying or 2 other planes flying at the same time. So there's 3 actual competitions going on, and you're having to communicate. Like you have radios where you're like, okay, flight line 1 doing this, flight line 1 doing that. And there was times where we almost had a couple of mid-airs. I mean, because we're all trying to occupy the same airspace. And it was a little scary a couple times, but and you'd have to go in orbit, just kind of okay. I'm not, because you have time if you want it, but it's if you rush through, then you're not gonna get as good a score, which is kind of what I figured out at the end. So, but I'm qualified, so
That's even better.
that's the best part. So I can go on and I don't know if you guys have heard, but we're actually hosting it again at our field this year.
Oh,
In
nice.
October, yes. So they were planning on having it in Texas or somewhere in the Midwest, and they just couldn't get a club to agree on doing it.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know why. Just one of those things. And the group that kind of organized this has said, hey, I know we just had this here, but we all did really well. The field's perfect for it. Do you want to do it again? So we went to the board and we just kind of did it like over the phone and email and word of mouth. And like, can we do this again? Yeah, let's do it again. So we're doing it again.
So you're doing another qualifier?
No,
or
we're
you're
doing
the
Scale Masters, the championship
Scale
again.
Masters, the
Yeah,
championship.
the championship again. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
okay.
So I'm going to compete, and once you qualify, you don't have to fly that same airplane. So that airplane is actually hanging up at Alliance RC Hobbies for sale right now.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I'm like, it was fun, but I'm gonna get the big one now. So Motion sells the Nexa.
Yeah, that's right. They do.
And it's basically the same plane that I had before, and I've got all the power system and the servos, and I can fly the thing night and day. So yeah, so it was a great experience, and really some really awesome planes. I mean, I just everyone's like, really, you're flying that thing? It's like, I'm like, hey, I'm here. It's
right.
not. It's size does not matter. It's just I'm here. So, but I think there was a guy that brought out. I posted some pictures. There was a giant AC 119, the gunship version of the boxcar. And the guy brought it out just to get the scale score, and he was just like kind of full of himself. And he only got like, out of 100, he got like 80. And he was like,
oh.
And it's beautiful. When you first look at it, it's like, oh wow. But when you look at like the shapes and stuff, it's kind of off, and the paint was a little. But Tim Dickey, one of our club members, he got a perfect score of 100 for his Stearman.
Oh wow! Yeah,
yeah. And then
I've seen that Stearman.
It's beautiful.
It deserves to be.
Yeah, and then he dinged it up. He had a pretty bad landing with it.
Oh no!
Yeah, so kind of dinged it up. But we had a real flyby on Saturday. We had a real Stearman and a real T6 that came by, and they did a flyby. And
that's kind of cool.
And the Texan, they did a full gear down, like they slowed it down, put the gear down, flaps on dirty pass, and then put it back up. And it was just kind of cool. You could sit there and watch that at like 500 feet. So
that's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I would tell anybody, hey, if you got anything that's even close to scale, go out and try Sportsman. Pro-Am Sportsman. Just give it a shot. You come up with, there's a whole list of maneuvers. You can download the manual. The rules. It's the 2020 rules. That's the newest one they have. And you just put together a routine and you get it as rock solid as you can. And I think I'll probably do a lot better, especially with a plane bigger than I was flying coming here. So I'm really excited now. So that's my experience.
Wow, that's cool. Well, we're so let's see. So your experience was great, but is there anything that you kind of saw or experienced that you would pass along to someone new coming in to do it? Something that you were like, oh man, if I'd only known this, it would have gone this much better.
I think I wasn't clear as to how many maneuvers I had to have done soon enough. Like I knew in time for the event, but if I knew exactly, and that was my own fault. So I would say read the rule book, just read the instructions. Same thing.
Right.
And if don't be afraid to ask questions. And I had no, I know most of the guys that were there, but they had a lot of new judges, and everyone said, like when the scores were coming, when they post the scores, like after everyone competes in a round, they'll post the scores. Like the first round, there was not a single 100, no, or even like a 10 on a one maneuver. And they're like, man, these judges are harsh. It's like usually you see a couple of 10s, and they're like, well, they're new judges for the most part, or they've been guys that have been doing it for a long time, and they are really sticklers. They want, when you come out of my idea of a figure eight versus what they want for a figure eight, two different things. Like, when I'm just out there flying around, like, okay, I'm going around in circles and I can kind of cross in the middle. But from the aerobatic world, it's 270 come around, 180, come down and out.
Right.
So it's that, just like you're used to in the aerobatic world.
Right.
But just get comfortable with those maneuvers and make them as precise as possible, and don't be afraid to ask questions. That's, I would say, just
nobody wants a movie critic that gives a pass to every movie.
true. Right? But they're like, I don't think there was hard. Like, I think by the end of the week there was maybe 110 on any maneuver. It was not very many, but usually you see guys that get better. They were like, they just were shocked that there weren't more 10, and
No, but I can tell you that that's good, because in my eyes, when you show up, even for me in the full scale contest versus this, but if you show up and you really try, and then some guy gets a 10, you'll never catch him.
Right.
You'll never, unless they totally jack up the next two flights or however many, And so to me, it's almost kind of like, well, everybody can improve and everybody's on the same page, like everybody can make their next flight that much better.
Yeah.
So I've got this much improvement. Now, I will tell you that, having said that, I have come away with some high scoring, because we score per figure, right? So I've come away with 10s on a figure, but not 10, 10, 10,
Right.
10, right? So it's been 10 on this figure, and then maybe a 8.5 on that one, because there's little things that you can mess up. So I totally get it. So, it may be something in the past where guys have, new judges have given higher scores, and maybe they just saw that this one was like, oh wow, these guys are.
It was the lower score. The newer judges given the lower scores. It was kind of like they were concerned with, but because I called for Paul Stenberg because he flew and competed as well. He had just a Park Zone or not Park Zone, E-Flight, the big T-28, the new one, and he's a great pilot. He's been flying longer than I have probably, and he was expecting to have a higher score flying than he did. And he's like, what are these judges looking for? Because he's like, I know what I'm doing.
Right.
It's
right.
like, oh boy.
Right.
But like I learned from him, like some of the maneuvers, like when he did a touch and go, he actually did it. The touch was one maneuver and the go was another. And so I'm like, well, wow, if I thought about that, I might have done something like that, but I didn't know you could split it. So
they're segmented.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times in my world, that's how they judge. They judge in segments. So, the first pull is, that's a 10, but then the little maneuver in middle is, okay, that wasn't as good. And then, the line wasn't as long. So And just for your clarification, I can send you some stuff that'll kind of make it a lot better if you're interested. But a chandelle is a maximum performance 180-degree
Right.
turn with a climbing
Yep.
turn, and a 180-degree climbing turn is not maximum
Okay.
performance.
Gotcha.
So it's just a turn, like you're turning and climbing at the same
Right.
time. So there's a constant bank and a constant rate of climb in the 180-degree turn. But in a chandelle, you're going to roll into a 30, and now it's a constant bank with a pull around to the maximum slowest speed at the very top. So you're maximizing this 180-degree climbing turn, but you're not adding any more bank. And at some point, your pitch and your bank become, maxed where you can't change. And now you've got the highest pitch, and you're having to roll the bank out in order to maintain all that. So
their rule
anyway,
book
I can send you
wasn't
the
that
information
clear, I
on that.
guess. So it's like,
yeah, I can imagine if somebody just said, "Oh, you want to do chandelle?" It's a little bit different when you're sitting behind the controls because it makes more sense. But in an RC airplane, I can see that if someone just said, "Oh, you want to do chandelle?" It's kind of a little bit different.
So,
but the
Shannon,
control inputs are the same.
I got a quick question
after hearing
for you.
this conversation,
So,
I realized that. Sorry,
both
Jay.
are talking at the same time. All right, hold on.
Yeah, sorry.
Jay had a question.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
Shannon, my question to you is, are guys penalized for having gyros, or is there a different class if you have a gyro in your plane? Because
no,
I'm just thinking if you're trying to come out at a 180 or trying to do something, your gyro will assist you in that.
Yeah, no, gyros are totally
or make it look
allowed.
smoother.
Yeah, gyros are totally okay, and that was actually something I tried to do. So I was playing with my new radio. I've got the Free Sky, and I put one of the gyro receivers in it, but I got stuck on the setup of it, and when I tried to use it even a little bit, it was all over the place. It was like I was going to crash. So I turned it off just to get comfortable, and actually before the competition, I put another receiver in. But since then, I've actually figured out the stabilizer receiver for the most part. I've flown it on another airplane, and I was like, wow, if I had this working 2 weeks ago, I probably would have scored a lot better. Because
but you're not penalized.
No, not at all. Nope.
Yeah, so you're not penalized at all if you have one or against the guy who
Nope.
doesn't. So,
nope, not at all. I mean, and I'd say probably 90% of the guys probably had them in.
Yeah, it's pretty much standard.
Whether it's an Aura or a Demon or just AS3X, it's just like it's in there. So I think there was a time where it was frowned upon, but I used to have I had a big Cub where I had a gyro, like literally the old school gyro on the rudder. Basically a helicopter gyro just to keep just keep this the
just keep the
rudder. So if I'd had that, I probably would have had at least an 80 or 90 probably on just a couple of maneuvers.
Well, that's good. That's something you learn, though.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot. So,
that's exciting. Do they have the dates in October yet or no?
As of right now, I think the dates they're looking for the 11th to the 15th. We're still throwing around what date exactly. There's a couple other events between here and California, and there's a little crossover, but we'll see what happens. But mid October is what we're looking at. So I'm gonna be there.
Good.
So Shannon, I got a second question for you. Once again, you're talking about mainly since this is a scale event, and guys tend to go with bigger planes with this because it's easier to do scale the bigger it is. But what's the smallest size that you can have and go to this event?
There is no size limit at all. I mean, it just has to be a scale. It has to be based on a real airplane. That as simple as that. Because Ken Walters. I don't know. I think Mike knows Ken Walters. His Dauntless that he flew, that was kind of like the gold standard for probably a decade. It was a 40 size. I mean, it wasn't anything fancy. It was built beautifully. Say that 3 times, and he flew it perfectly. He's just that good of a pilot. But yeah, it wasn't. And I even had a plane. There was another guy that gave us a plane. It was an air coupe. It ran on a 25, and it competed in Scale Masters back in the day. So there's no size limit. Wow. But there's a picture I posted. There's my little Cub, and then a real quarter scale Cub.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
Okay.
Well, we're excited to hear what the dates
Oh
are
yeah, we'll keep you up
finalized
to
in
date.
October, and yeah, I'll try to bid that time off as well. So that'll be exciting. Have to go check it out. At least
Yeah,
be a spectator.
we do a live. We can do a live on air
So
in the middle of competition.
there you
Shannon's
go.
competing.
Yeah. Shannon actually dropped a video while you were over there, so that was kind of nice. Check out our Park Flyer Podcast listeners group page on Facebook. Shannon was doing a little bit of a live stream while he was
And
out there, so that was good because I was on a trip and I was like, "Oh, Shannon just
I
posted," so I was
recorded another. I
trying to
recorded
see
like
what
the
was going
follow up
on.
to it, but then I got so busy with getting ready to leave for trying to go to that I just forgot to post it.
Yeah,
But it was fun.
no worries,
So
no worries. Well, good. Well, we appreciate that. Jay, you were out flying with Jim, and you got to fly your new airplane a couple times
I did.
as well, right?
I did. I did. Yeah. So you ever have one of those days when you get out to the field? You've been out to the field a zillion times, but for some strange reason, you go, man, I think this is going to be a good day to fly. And that turned out
I do
that
that
it
all the
was the
time.
perfect day to fly. It was kind of overcast, no wind. And as you can tell, for that little valley that we fly in, having no wind or nothing, going different directions, which is the norm, is very kind of
Mhm.
rare. But we got out there, and it was one of those things. We normally try to get out there early in the morning because the wind is less. But we got out there early afternoon, and like I said, it was kind of overcast, no wind, and I haven't seen Jim in a couple of months. Unfortunately, he's been under the weather for a little bit, and so he was feeling better. And I had the time. He wanted to see my new plane. In fact, we were trying to hook up when you came out for him to come out, but it just
Mhm.
didn't work out that way. So, like a day or two after you left, then we met up and got out there. Jim brought, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 planes, and I had just brought just mine. And normally he starts off. We usually fly, the wings or something to kind of warm up our
Right.
fingers. And this time he had his Dolphin, which is a nitro plane. I guess it's about 40 size. Um, he's had this plane for a long time. It's kind of a low wing. We got out there and uh, we started flying, and usually Jim's a little nervous the first flight or two, and he got up there and he was flying perfect. The plane was trimmed pretty good. The engine was running, fairly well. Normally he has to tweak that
Mhm.
quite all the time, but he didn't this time. Came in and he kind of did a bounce landing, boop, and shut off the engine because the landing gear kind of compresses and the prop got close enough to shut the motor off. And we were kind of laughing about that, and I was kind of ribbing him a little bit. And he brought it back, refueled it, and then like it was something click, and then after that, Jim did the best landings I have seen him do in a long time. He
Very
was
nice.
flying perfectly. It was in fact I thought he got taken over by an alien or something, because you know normally if the wind picks up a little bit or something happens, and then or if we start talking about it, then then he can't
Mhm.
replicate what he did just the landing before. But this time he had no problem landing either direction. He was doing these beautiful gliding landings. He didn't bounce it down the runway anymore. It was just incredible. So he did a great flight in that plane, and that Dolphin was just flying great. He gave me the sticks for a bit, and I flew it around, and it's a nice flying plane. I would say that my landings weren't nearly as good as his landings were. It was just a beautiful thing to see. That just for a guy who hadn't been flying, he hadn't been out flying for like 3, 4 months, to come out and just everything clicked. So like I said, I was kind of speechless. But anyway, I finally got up mine and I started flying it. And once again, when we flew, it was kind of windy, and the
Mhm.
like I said, the flag was going around a 360. This time, like I said, we barely any wind. Uh, and now that I got to fly in no wind and with the 6 cell, I really have to say I don't like. I not that I don't like it, but the 6 cell is really, really, really heavy. So I'm waiting for my props to show up in the mail, and I'm going to go down to the 4 cell. I think the weight savings will definitely help because I flew it with the 5,000 and then the 5,500 that I have. And man, when I when I put that thing in, oh boy, it truly was a flying brick. I mean, it flew okay, but you could just feel how heavy it was. I mean, the minute you released the tension on the sticks, even though it had a gyro in it, it
Mm-hmm.
it just felt heavy. It just felt like you were flying a log. It definitely wasn't light and airy and springy, and that you take the throttle off and it just glides all the way across the field, and you're like, come back. No, none of that. It was, I'm coming down to the ground now. So yeah, the plane definitely flies very, very heavy with a 6 cell. But yeah, all in all, it was just one of those days that was just super nice, and it was kind of cold in the morning, and then by the afternoon it warmed up and the sun broke out just a little bit. He got out his he's got something from Hobby King, a Tundra. It's another Covish type plane, or the Kingfisher or something like that. So he had his up, I had mine up, and that was kind of fun chasing each other around in that. Although, once again, you got to kind of worry about the scale thing. Like if my plane started to look like his plane, I'm way out there type of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But the added lights for mine with that overcast day, man, it just looked really nice having the lights on the wingtips and stuff. So I was really loving that.
So did you think or feel like it was balanced with those bigger batteries? I mean, because I know we were trying to figure out if we needed to move them back a little bit.
I did I did move them back just a little bit to, and it flew okay, but I didn't dare go too far because once again, it just runs out of strap, runs out of room. So I got to where it was comfortable. I had some stuff stuffed on the sidewalls, to kind of keep it tight in there so it wouldn't slide back anymore. I had done some modifications to move the strap back a little bit, but there really isn't enough room in there. So that's another reason why I think I want to go with the lighter battery, because I think to really make that plane responsive like I would like it, how I would like it, the battery needs to go back, just so much more, and there's just not enough strap to hold on to that thing. And I haven't put like Velcro, on the, my Velcro supplies just disappeared. So I wasn't able to put more Velcro in the back and on the battery. So, unless I do something like that, I just decided I was just going to go with the 4-cell and see how that turns out.
I think maybe when you came up here the last time, you must have brought all your Velcro, because I got Velcro coming out every orifice that I need to over here. It's just coming.
Well, I did bring,
every time I open something up, I'm like, where did this Velcro come from?
That could have been because I
got like rolls of that stuff.
Yeah. I'm Velcro to the seat right now.
I know, right? There. Well, that's kind of exciting. It's always fun for me to hear Jim's, progress and how he gets better every time. And I know that the couple times that I've flown with him and been down there have been just wonderful. And, it's kind of fun watching him and having him learn things and try different stuff. And so the fact that he had a great day is phenomenal. I mean, that makes me happy, because I like hearing that it's not something where you take something home in a trash bag or, and I think that's a confidence builder too. I mean, just like Shannon was talking about his Gunsmoke, if you go out and do stuff and then, when you come back and you do it again, then there's more, you obviously had more confidence the second, third, and fourth flight than you did on the first flight. You're kind of like, okay, what's going on? So I think that when you have days at the field that lend themselves to having good flights, they're, exciting and they're fun, and you come back, knowing that you've progressed and you've gotten better, or you had a really good day, it makes it, kind of one of those things where I look forward to the next day, right? I mean, like I want to go back out to the field because I had such a good day today. The days where nothing goes right and you left your radio at home and you had to go back and you get your battery and, then you ding up the airplane because you did something stupid and you're always rushing. Those days never seem to, they kind of hang over your head like a black cloud, but it's the days like what you had that when you talk about it, I think.
And it's one of those things too for us was there was a little bit, the field had grown just a little bit. And so, you have a little bit of high grass. And so when he was making the landings, it makes that sound when it hits the grass. and it makes that whoosh sound. It just kind of,
yeah.
and you would just land it and do a touch and go and stuff, and it would just make that perfect sound. And I think that was the other thing that just added to that oomph to the day when it was just coming down.
Sure.
You take off again, or sometimes
awesome.
He had one landing that wasn't looking good, and he pulled it out at the end. And it just kind of landed on that grass again perfectly, and I was just like, oh man, I had to go over, shake his hand. I said, dude, you pulled that out. It sounded perfect. That was beautiful. So yeah, we had fun. That was definitely a fun day.
Well, good. Well, I'm gonna. I've been working a lot lately, so I'm gonna try and take some time and go fly it. I almost have the Sparrow ready to go, so I'm excited about getting that in the air, and we'll see. We'll all have good weeks, I think, again this week. Anybody flying this coming up week? Anybody? No.
Hopefully get the Turbo Duster in the air.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Shannon got a new airplane. Congratulations. We'll save that for another podcast so you can tell us all about it. But Shannon did get a new plane, and I think it came in today, right?
It literally, like, I shoved it in the garage as I walked in the door this morning.
He was like, "I got a podcast. All right, I'll come back to you later." Well, that's fun. So, all right, we're looking forward to that, and we definitely enjoy having you on the podcast. So we're
glad to be
more
here.
Episodes with you.
Lots of fun.
All right,
Mike, you've been flying. Mike, AK Mike, you've been flying. You got all the free time.
Oh no, I haven't. No, the weather's been kind of crappy.
Yeah, it has been.
And so with a lot of wind and rain and stuff, so it makes the fields wet, and so I haven't been flying that much.
Floats.
Yeah, I knew that for a fact because my work took me through Dallas once or twice this last week, and the weather was horrific. It was like, oh my gosh.
I have to say I love living in Dallas, but from a flying perspective, like Alaska was way better. Like I flew more in Alaska than I ever do here, because it's just and I guess if I flew bigger planes or ones with heft, then it'd probably be different. But the winds are always 10, 12, 15. And my small foamies, they just, Spencer can fly my planes in this wind because that's what we did.
Right.
But I just can't. I can't fly them that kind of weather. Just really hairy.
Yep. Time to move to Phoenix.
Yep. Time to come on out. See?
Maybe so.
And then we'll have to have instead of AK Mike in Phoenix. There you go.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And then all we need is Jay. He needs to get out here as well. So. There's something to be said for 365 days of nice weather.
Right?
Shannon knows, right?
Yeah, that's kind of 90%
of the time.
I
know,
say,
me too.
Yeah, it's a little hot. Today's a little warm.
It was a little warm today. I got up to 101 up here.
I went to. I was gonna go out this morning and get my car work done. I'm like, I better put a jacket on. It's already 80 degrees. I don't need a jacket.
Yeah, it was hot. Yeah, I actually got a little sun myself. I was outside and I was just like, wow, it's so hot out here. So summer's coming. Summer's gonna be here any second.
But what about all my foamies with hot glue? I don't know.
Uh-huh. They are fun
Arizona
to fly.
may not treat them very well.
They're falling apart already.
We can switch it. It just gives you a chance to undo them and put them back together. See, so sometimes while you're flying,
just what I wanted.
It gives you a chance to use real glue.
It's real man's glue.
Man's glue. Some Arizona glue. That's right. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but we're going to let you go. I'm Michael from Arizona.
I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
I'm AK Mike in Texas.
And Shannon G in Mesa AZ.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.